Hello, and how are you? My name is Mahindumba, and I welcome you to our third webinar of getting to know basics of computer-related knowledge or technology. So, I hope this is not your very first webinar. If it is, then I recommend you to visit our YouTube channel or our Twitter handle and find other related webinars with almost same related topics. So I see members have already joined, so let's start our today's business. Others will find us while we are already moving. So we're going to look at Git and GitHub Essentials. We have termed this webinar from zero to hero. Just basics of GitHub, understanding what is meant by GitHub, and knowing how GitHub can help you in whatever field that you are in. So that's what we're going to look at today. So without wasting much time, let's go straight into today's presentation. Then after the presentation or in the middle of the presentation, we will dive into practicals and do a few things on the practical side, so we can get or can grasp the real meaning of GitHub. Good. So here are the topics that we're going to cover. We shall discuss what is meant by version control. Then we shall also get introduced to Git, and then we shall also get started with Git and GitHub, and then also we shall look at the basic commands of GitHub. We shall look at collaborating with GitHub, and also we shall have some practical examples or demonstrations. Then shall also have a session for question and answers. So you should prepare your questions as I'm presenting. By the time I finish, you should be able to ask one or two things that you would like to know much about GitHub. So what is GitHub? What is version control system? So system that traces the records changes to files over time. That is what is made by version control system. If you want to track the changes of files with time, that process of tracking the changes of files with time is what we can call version control. So a system that does version control, we call it version control system. So tracking changes of files is very important, most especially when you're dealing with the plain text files. Let's say that you have an idea and you start writing your piece of code or anywhere, but with time you realize that maybe that idea is not good, and then you rewrite your code. Again, later realize that what you wrapped was actually better compared to what you have written. So the basic computer will not give you ability. If you don't have the version control software, you will not have the ability to recover what you have already wrapped or what you have already deleted. But like undoing something that you've already deleted, in computers or in plain computers, you don't have that ability. Once you close the software, you cannot even undo. But with version control softwares, you can even retrieve things that you have already deleted. So in simple terms, you'll be creating things and you save them, even if it is one file. So even if you delete, you can be able to go back at any point where you saved and retrieve or go back to the certain version that where you stopped at, or the one that you want to retrieve. So that process is very important when it comes to you working with so many files, and also with multiple people who have different ideas. So retrieving back data that you've already changed or that already deleted is very, very important. We shall look at that as we proceed. So the importance of this, it tracks the history. You can be able to track what you have already deleted, as I've already elaborated, and also the collaboration. Let's say that you're 10 people working on the same project. So by the power of Git and GitHub, you can be able to know who wrote what in the real time. So when this person saves and sends his changes, you can be able to know it is a certain person who contributed this part of code or this part of content. And so it will help with collaboration and also managing the changes. As I've already elaborated that even if you make a change, you can be able to retrieve back. So let's say that if two people have written maybe the same function that are doing the same thing, with Git or with version control software, you can be able to decide which function you should take, and then it will not even affect the entire system. So we have different types of, we have different platforms of version control softwares. So the first one is Git, or the most popular. You have Git. Another one is SVN. Another one is Mercurial. So all those are what are different types of version control softwares. However, the most popular one is the one that we're going to cover, which is GitHub or Git. So let's look at introduction to Git. So we shall also look at the difference between Git and GitHub. So distribution version control system, as I've already said, that is what's meant by what? By the Git. And its history is it was created by the person who created Linux in 2005. That genius person called Tavalans is the one who created Linux, and he's the same person, the Linux operating system, and he's the same person who started creating the Git, or what you call GitHub today. So in the year 2005, that is when he has that idea. Now it has been improved, has been acquired by different companies until now, and he's saving a lot of programmers as we will proceed. Not only programmers, but so many in different fields. So that is the brief history of Git. So the benefits of GitHub is performance. So I imagine if you don't know GitHub and you're doing your final year project and you're like 10 people working on the same project, what does it mean? It means that every time you want to put your changes together, you'll have to create a separate zip and send to each person, and they add their own things. However, with GitHub, and you'll find it is very, very, very hard in order to make sure that everyone is having the latest updated code. Even when you want to change one thing, you'll have to send it to everyone manually. So imagine if there are 8 people, and you have like only 5 maybe changes. So it means that you'll have to share your code on a flash disk or any storage device 5 times 8 times, which is very, very complex and complicated. But with GitHub, you can be able to change just one thing, and then you just send your changes. So a person who is working on the same project will just simply pull. We're going to look at the meaning of pull, and then your changes will come without even sending them the whole file. So it will track only the changes part. So that will make your performance to be high compared to you working without the GitHub, or as we're going to look at, without Git. So also flexibility. So as I'm explaining, you'll see that Git or GitHub, it does not allow you, it does not do like the whole changes of the file. Let's say that you have let's say that you have 50 files and you make a change in only one file. You're not going to upload, it's not going to upload the entire 50 files or entire folder of 50 files. It will only take that file and in a specific section of that file that has changes. So you'll find that everything is much more flexible in a way that you don't need to carry the whole project in order to share your changes. And it is robust. It has been there since 2005. A lot of contribution have been done to it, and it is as stable, and programmers are using it. It is very, very stable in a way that you'll hardly get errors with the software. So getting started with GitHub, you can install Git. We're getting started with Git and GitHub. You can install it on a Windows software, or you can install it on a Mac laptop, or you can you can install it on a Windows operating system or Windows device. You can as well install it on a Mac operating system. You can as well install it on a Linux operating system. So it is available on all operating systems for desktop computers. So the first thing is getting up your Git environment. You're going to see how we can set up our environment, and then copy your code and then paste it in your Git folder. I mean in your Git software, as we're going to look at that. Then you'll need to have an account, and that is how you configure it. You're going to look at how you can do all these things. So we have also a web-based platform or version of Git. So the version of Git. So Git is the software itself. Now, when you want to use the interface, so the software which you use the commands, like the core software, is called Git. Now, when you want to use the interface, without writing too much commands, by just clicking, viewing what is happening in background, not writing commands, you'll need now a software called GitHub. So GitHub is literally a software that gives you an interface that will help you to manage your Git. I repeat. So Git, it was done without an interface. You just write commands. Then the GitHub team, they realized that this is going to be hard for people, so they had to create a software. It is a web-based. It's on internet. It's on web. So this software, it provides you the interface, or where you can click and a certain action is done in background on Git. So that software is called GitHub. So literally, GitHub is now the software that we shall be seeing by your own eyes. Then Git is the software itself that will use the commands to do what? To access. So literally, that is the difference between Git and GitHub. Git is the core software where you use commands to access it, and GitHub is the software that gives you the interface to access the Git. So that is the difference between those two. So features of GitHub, it has repositories. Repositories is a certain project, is what you call a repository. So if you hear someone talking about a repo or a repository, they mean a project of Git or GitHub. Then we have branches. So a branch is a certain section of a repository. So let's say that you're working with 10 people on the same project. So before you do what? Before you put your ideas together, you may need to first review them. So by doing so, you may need to create different branches. So everyone will have their own branch, and they work on their separate branches or separate sections. So when they finish or contributing, or when you want to merge, they can make a pull request. A pull request is requesting to merge a code with the main code. So when you accept this code, the code will come together. So a branch literally is a certain section of a certain section of your repository. For example, let me give another example. Let's say that you have a mobile app, or maybe let's say that you have a software, and let's say that you have, for example, a school management system, and you want to be introducing different things maybe after 2 months. After 1 month, you introduce you introduce some certain features. After 1 month, you introduce other features. So by doing so, you may not need to change everything that was in the previous version. So what you may need to do here, you may need to create just branches. So you can have a branch that of the code that you released in maybe January 2020, and maybe in January 2000. Let's say that you have the code that you released in January 2024, and maybe in February you release another version of your code, or maybe another version of your software. So you can create another branch of that version. You keep it there as a version of February. So also in March, you create another version maybe. So doing so, like maybe every month, you have new contribution that you're adding, and you're releasing another update of an application. So to keep the code intact without changing it, you can keep it in what? In version. So if someone said that for me, I need a specific version of that you released in January. So you don't need again to fidget, to reverse things. You'll just simply leave the versions, the branches that you released in February, March, April, and May, and then you just go straight to the branch of January, and the code, you'll find it in the same version as how you left it in that time. So by doing so, it will give you like much more flexibility to manage your source code or your project. So that is the meaning of of branches. A branch is just like the way it sounds, or like a branch of a tree. You'll get something and keep it somewhere totally separate until you want it. Then you'll come back for it. So that is the meaning of branch. Or you can just use it creatively in different ways. You can say maybe if we are collaborating 10 people on the same project, every person should have their branch separately. So maybe the branch that works perfect, you can make it now the main branch. You can even merge. You get things from different branches and put them together in the same branch. We are going to elaborate this and we see how it means. So we have another thing called pull request. So pull request is a request to do what? Is a request for your branch to be to be merged as the contribution of the main branch. And then you have issues. Issues, as it sounds, is the issues that you might be having on the different parts of the code, which you can raise on GitHub. So the benefits of GitHub is collaboration, as I've already explained this, that without GitHub, it will be very hard for you to collaborate. But with GitHub, you can simply collaborate. Also, project management, like as I've said, you can be most of projects, you don't work on it alone. So if you like 10 people working on the same project, you can use GitHub to do what? To simply help you manage your project. So another advantage is open source and contribution. So GitHub is an open source software. If you learn and understand the code of GitHub, it is available for you to even contribute, meaning it is not limited and it is in public. They are not selling your data. Everyone can see any loophole in case there is any. And as there are so many people who are contributing to the open source in a way that everyone should be able to do to benefit from it, and it is for free. So those are the benefits of GitHub. So let's look at basic commands of Git. So we have Git init. So Git init, it will help you to start a GitHub repository or to initialize a GitHub. So when you want to create a new GitHub repository, we use Git init. Then you have Git clone. Git clone is, let's say that we are working 5 on a same project and I've created the project. I'm the first person who has created it. You don't need to create another one. So you need to just get my project and put it on your computer or on your desktop or whatever, so that you can be able to start collaborating towards the same project that you're working on. So that process of getting the already existing GitHub project and put on your computer, we call it what? We call it cloning. We are going to demonstrate it also. Then you have Git add. So Git add, it helps you to add the files on the GitHub. Then you have a commit. A commit, it helps you to commit changes. So as I've told you, you might be having 1,000 changes. Not that every change that will have to be, you need to track it. So when you feel like, okay, now this is the point where I need to save my changes. So saving your changes that want GitHub to start tracking, we call it committing. So let's say that you've finished your day working on a certain project, you want to go at home and rest or something like that. You may need to commit the work of that day, and then after, when you wake up tomorrow, you have another. You can be able to resume on what you left yesterday, something like that. So a commit is just like how it sounds, a commitment, a confirmation that, okay, GitHub, in case there's anything that goes bad, I can be able to start from here. That's what you call a commit. We're also going to look what is meant by commit and understand it. Then we have another one called check status. So So check status of someone was asking what is staging area. Staging area is just like a point where you may need to resume from in case there is any issue that you want to that will require you to go back. So check status of the repository. This one, Git status, will check the status of the repository. Then you have Git log. So Git log will give you the history of different commits. As I've told you, every time that you want to make your changes, you want to save your changes, you'll commit. So if you want to view the different commits that you've been making ever since you started your project, you'll need to run a command called git log. So git log will give you will give you a history of your different commits. Let's say that maybe you wrote code for 10 days and you want to go back maybe on the second day. So each commit will have a unique ID whereby you can be able to reverse to it by first viewing through git logs and give you the ID for each commit that you did make. So we proceed. So we're going to have a practical exam. We're going to do a practical part of it. We're going to create a Git repository. We're going to look at the example of cloning a Git. We're going to look at making changes and committing, and also pushing and merging. So that are the things that we're going to do. You're going to look at. Let's go straight into our practicals. So as I've told you, I'm not going to take you much into technical things. I'm just going to show you how you can get started with GitHub. Okay. So with Git and GitHub. So the first thing is to do, if you want to start with Git, so you may need to create You may need to create an account for Git. So if you want to create an account for Git, you just simply go to Git on internet, or you go to github.com. As I've told you, that Git, it will use commands, but GitHub, let me go to google.com and be able to search. So Git will use command, but GitHub will give you the interface. So go to your Google and search GitHub. So when you go to GitHub, it will give you, so this will be now the interface. However, if you search the Git, it will be now the software that will allow you to use to use command. So Git is the one for command. This one, it has a red icon. Then GitHub, it will just give you an interface that will make your life easy to work with the Git itself. So if you search GitHub, you'll see it there. So let me go ahead. So you see, this GitHub was founded in 2008, whereby Git, it was founded in 2005. So Git is the parent of GitHub. So let me go ahead and open my GitHub. Open GitHub link. So this is the GitHub website. So if you don't have an account, you can go ahead and sign up here, or create an account here. So you'll go ahead and enter your email and give your phone number. So you'll begin by entering your email. So signing up is very, very straightforward, just like the way you sign up on other platforms. Go ahead and enter your emails. After entering your emails, after entering your email, you go ahead. After entering your email, you go ahead and enter your username, and then they send you an email for you to confirm. Then after confirming, you go ahead and do what? Okay, once you confirm, then you'll have a GitHub account. So every GitHub user will have a unique identification name, what we call username, that will help other collaborators to identify your account. So that's what we call GitHub username. Okay. So for example, me I already have an account. However, creating an account for GitHub is very simple. Just search GitHub and then go ahead and create it. It's very simple and straightforward. So for me, I already have an account. So if you come to my GitHub, if you go to GitHub and search Mobahood, you'll be able to find my account. So this is my GitHub, and then my account name is Mobahood. That's my account. However, you can create your own. So here I'll have repositories. You'll have repositories. Some are public, some are private. So repositories is a list of projects that you've been creating. So let's say that I want to create a new project. So there are different ways of creating projects. Since you're not going to use the terminal, let's use the software of GitHub and see how you can create different projects. However, you can use this GitHub to create even if, as long as you're working with files, it can be Word, it can be Excel, it can be like all kind of files. You can use GitHub to do what? To track your changes. So now let's say that I want to do what? I want to create a project, okay? So we're going to start from there. So there are different ways of how you can create project. You can create using a software, or you can create using what? Using the GitHub interface. So let's create a GitHub project right now. So I'll come here and say GitHub repository. So this, I'll have different repositories that I'll have there. So these are the repositories that I'm already having. So you'll be able to access the new button. So when I click on new button, this is one of the way how you can create a GitHub what? A GitHub repository. So they'll give you a simple form that you'll have to fill to create your what? To create your repository. So if you're a programmer and there you've not explored GitHub, or you've not started using GitHub, then you're doing a mistake. This is even if you lose your you lose your computer, you can be able to retrieve your code by GitHub. So let me go ahead and create my repository. How should I call this repository? I'm going to call it my blog. Okay, so that is the name of my repository. 160 star 160. So this is my blog. That is the name of repository. So it will be mobilehost stroke my blog. Okay. So after doing that, the next thing is I can give a description. My simple personal blog. Okay. So after doing so, I'll go ahead and say whether I want to keep it public or private. So if I want everyone to be able to see it, I can just say public. Maybe let's say I want people to see my code and reuse it. I can keep it as public. If I want to keep it private for me only, I can just simply say private. Okay. So let me keep it public. Then after doing so, I can go ahead and say create repository. So when I do so, my project will create for me, the GitHub will create for me a repository which is going to be stored stroke mobilehood stroke what? Stroke my blog. So that is a unique identification of my repository. So anyone out there, you can just simply go to this link and you'll be able to access my code right now. So there are things that you have to start with. I can add even collaborators. You're going to start can do that. So the things that I start with right now, I'm on web interface. So I'm recommending you to start using GitHub right now because that is the only way you can keep your code safe. So don't fear, you can just try it out right now. You'll see that it is even fun to collaborate with people. So right now, not even just only for programming, even any file that you want to keep, you have your passwords and you want to keep them privately on GitHub, you can go ahead and use that, something like that. So right now, I want to start adding my content on this GitHub, okay? So on this project. So this project of my blog, you see it is very empty. There is nothing there. There is not any branch. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to clone it. So I've finished creating the project. So I want to clone the project. So to clone this project is the process. The process of cloning is just the process of putting this project on my what? On my computer. So there are different ways of how you can clone it. Cloning means to get the project that's already online and put it on your computer. So there are different ways of how you can get a project that's already online and put it on your computer. So one of the way is through using a software. Just like I said, I want to make your life simple. So you may need to download a software for GitHub. So just simply come here and say GitHub software or GitHub for desktop. So when you do so, they'll give you GitHub for desktop. So you don't need to write even too much commands. So go ahead and download this GitHub for desktop. It's available for Windows. It's available for Mac operating system. It's also available for what? For Linux users. So I click on download. Then it will take me to the link where I'll start downloading it. So for me, I already have it, so I'll not need to download. So downloading it is simple. Just click on that button. You'll have it downloaded on your laptop or on your computer. So once you have it in your computer, go ahead and do what? Go ahead and log in. So for me, I already have it, so I don't need to again to download it afresh. But for you, you can go ahead and download it. It is as simple as how I have shown you. So let me go ahead and open my GitHub software. So I'll go to my all apps and go ahead and open Git. So this is Git for desktop, and I open it. So there is my software. So when you open it for the first time, it will be just asking you to log in. Go ahead and do what? And log in. So this software is very simple and straightforward, and it looks the same on both platforms, whether using Windows or Linux or Mac OS. It is almost the same platform, almost the same, same interface. Now, our problem is to get the software, is to get the project that we have created and put it on what? And put it on our computer, what we call cloning. So to clone the project, so here they'll give you different steps. You can just simply use this one. They'll just show you how you can clone and put this project on your computer. So for me, I can just simply copy this link of my project, or I can just simply come on top here and copy the link of my project. And then I come to this GitHub software, and then you come to File, and then you'll see Clone Repository. Or you press Ctrl Shift and O to clone a repository. Cloning a repository, I repeat, is the process of getting the repository from the internet or from the GitHub software and from the GitHub web portal and put on your computer. So let me go ahead and click on Clone Repository. So when I click on Clone Repository, I'll just simply click, I want to use the URL or the link. If you're already logged in, they'll bring here your repositories. You can be able to search it. For example, I can be able to search my blog. So you see it is already there. You can as well say I want to use the URL, the link. So copy the link and paste it here. So when you paste it here, then they will ask you, where do you want to, on your computer, where do you want to keep your information or your code or this repository's data? Why do you want to keep this data? I'll go ahead and specify, maybe I want to keep this data on my desktop in the folder called GitHub, for example. So once I do so, I'll go ahead and say select. So when I select, it will tell me that we're going to keep this project under your desktop in your folder called GitHub. So you can also as well select the right product, the right folder accordingly. After doing so, I'll go ahead and say clone. So when I say clone, it will process and download the project and put it on my computer. So it has successfully put the project on my computer. So I can now go ahead and start adding there the content. So that is simply how you clone. It is not magic. It is as simple as that. So after I've cloned, so the next thing is I want now to at least add there some data. So if you go ahead and say show in a Finder or show in Explorer, so this one, if you go to your desktop, for example, where you have cloned it, let me go to desktop, and then I go to GitHub. So you'll see that I have my project here. Where is it? It's called my blog. Where is it? My blog. You see, my project is here. This is my project. But there is no any content there. There is no any content. So that's the point. So right now, if I get a Word, let's say, for example, I get a Word document and I save it here. Let me go ahead and do so. Let me say that I want to maybe track my pictures. I want to keep my pictures on GitHub, something like that. Or just for testing purposes. I can go ahead and get, for example, let me get here one of pictures here. This is my picture with my wife. So I can go ahead and put it there. For example, I put it in this folder. So you just observe one thing. So I drag and put this picture in the folder of my GitHub project that I've just cloned. So when I just put that picture there, so if I come back to the GitHub software, you'll see that GitHub software will detect a change in this folder. So it will say, hey, there is something that has changed in your folder, and it will tell you that there's this picture that has been added. So if it was a mistake, I can go ahead and remove it. If I want to add another one, I can go ahead and let me say, for example, I add this one. Go ahead and add it. For example, I've added 2 pictures. So you see here there are 2 pictures. So you see GitHub has detected that there are 2 changes that have been done on your on your repository. So it means that every change that we make in our repository folder, the GitHub software will be able to detect those changes. Now, let's say that maybe those are the changes that I want to keep there. So I can just simply save these changes. So to save these changes and send them to internet, remember this is offline. So to save these changes, I have to use what you call the commit. If you still remember the commit is like a commitment. GitHub, in case of anything, please save right now. In case of anything, I should be able to do what? To come back. That's what you call commit. So to commit on GitHub, I'll just simply come here and I say, so every commit that you make, you'll have to add a what? You'll have to add a comment so that people who are collaborating with you can be able to know what you changed, or even you yourself. Let's say like after 2 years, you want to go in your previous commits. That comment will help you to do what? To remember what you changed when you made that commitment. So I'll come here and put that commit here. So my commit can say maybe I added photos of my wife to the repo. So that is my first commit. And then after I go ahead and say commit, so I've committed. So that is how you commit. So if you commit, you can be able to view the history from here, the different commits that you've been making. So you see, this is my first commit. So if I say, let's say maybe I add maybe my assignment, let's say I add assignment in this repository, I go ahead and drag and add it there. So that's another change, but it has not been committed. Okay, it has not been committed. So if I want to commit it, I can go ahead, I say maybe I added a assignment doc. So that is my second commit. I go ahead and commit. So if I come here to history, this is like git log. You'll see that I had this first commit, and these are the things that we are done, and this is my second commit, and these are the things that we are done. So what does it mean? It means that I can even go ahead and revert back to this commit and resume from here. So you can have as many as commits as you want. However, the main point here, you have ability to go back to any point where you want to resume. That's the whole point. So now if I finish this commit, now these commitments have not been pushed. They are still on my computer. They are still on local machine. So if they still this computer right now, I will not be able to retrieve my data. I can only retrieve my data if I have saved these changes on internet. So if I come here to my repository, you will not see any change on my repository. So if I want to push these changes to my internet, that's what you call what? That's what you call pushing. So to push your changes on internet, you just simply come here and go ahead and say push. Okay? So you say push the main branch. So when you say push the main branch, the software or the Git will go ahead and push these changes to your what? To your GitHub repository. So after that, after doing so, you'll see that there are not any pending changes. So if anyone comes to the internet or on my repository, let's say my team member or even you, if you come to this link and go ahead and refresh, you'll be able to receive my changes. So you'll be able to receive them because they are what? They are public. So you can see this is the assignment, this is the photo that I added, and this is the second photo that I added, and the different commitments are there. So it means that even if I lose my laptop right now, I can be able to do what? To retrieve my changes. Let's say that maybe I have another colleague who want to add maybe their own photos. They can just simply go ahead and clone this project and go ahead and add their changes. So I see time is not our best friend right now. We are almost running out of time. Let me use more 5 minutes to elaborate the remaining things. Then I'll receive your questions if you'll have them. All right, so that is how you simply create a GitHub repository. So it is magical. For example, right now, let's say that that is in a view that anyone who wants to use GitHub. But let's look now in a view of developers. So you can just simply go ahead and open this, for example, this folder in your what? In your Visual Studio Code, okay? So if I come here and say, where is it? My blog, it is this one here, okay? And then I open my Visual Studio Code here, and then I go ahead and drag and drop my repository there. So you'll see that this is the repository that we have. So let me go ahead and create my first file. Let's say I want to create maybe a HTML file. So I can just simply say new and then say index.html like this. So I can go ahead and put here, for example, HTML5 and say, so I can put here maybe put welcome to my blog. Okay, so let me use this compiler to do what? To do so. So I can just simply do that simple changes. So this is I go ahead HTML. So I go ahead and save. So I've saved. Now it means that GitHub will have detected this change. So if I come back here, I'll see the GitHub has detected this change up to this point. So I can go ahead and commit. For example, I say maybe added HTML5. So if I go ahead and commit and push, now if you come here to the repository and you refresh, you'll be able to see that this HTML file was added. So let's say, so that is that's one day commit. So I can just go ahead and maybe make a change in this file. Okay. So let me say I remove this lorem ipsum. I can say my name is, and I put maybe b tag. My name is Muhindo Mbarak. So you see, it is the same file, and I'm just making just a simple change. Okay, I'm a software developer. So if I save, still GitHub will be able to detect that there was a change in your particular file, in the file, and these are the lines that were added. So it will show you a red color that this line was removed and it was added with these two lines. So I can be able to say maybe added my description and then go ahead and change and then push. So you'll see that each thing that I do, I'll have here a copy of it in history where I can be able to view something. So it means that even if you are maybe my colleague and you're working on a different computer and you pull these things, you can be able to have the same thing that I'm having in the same time, editing the same file, only that when you finish editing and you want to send these changes to me, you just simply commit and push. That's the whole concept. Like, you'll be able to track all changes and who did what on a particular file, even up to the level of a line. You'll be able to know a person who wrote a certain line. So if we are to talk about GitHub today only, we cannot be able to finish it, trust me. Let me show you just other basic things. For example, you may need to create a branch. We discussed about branches. So let's say that I want, maybe I have my colleague called Smaya, and I want her to start collaborating on this. So I can give her another branch. So I can just simply come here and say create new branch. So this new branch, I can say maybe version 2, or maybe Smaya's branch, something like that. Let's say maybe we are releasing another version. So I can just simply say v2. So when I go ahead and publish this branch, so this branch will have the same code of the main branch, but it will be tracked separately with my GitHub project. So if I come here and refresh, I'll be able to see that I now have two branches here. So if I come here and I click here, you see I'm having two branches. So it is loading. It's finished to load. You see I have two branches. So these two branches, you can do different things. So you can do the things of second branch, you add there your about us page, etc. So maybe you want to change the entire system, its appearance, but you don't want to lose the previous changes. You create another branch, version 3. So the previous changes will remain there, but you'll have not lost the other changes. So you can be able to retrieve back the previous changes. So lastly, let me see that I want to add their collaborators. So I can just simply come here to settings and then come and say collaborators. So collaborators are the people who will be able to do what? To contribute to my project. I again come here and put here the collaborator. So I'll just simply put here your username. Okay, let me for example put here one of my other accounts. So you see this is let me say for example learn it with Muhindo. So you see this is another account of mine. So I can go ahead and invite this member. I can invite as many as possible to start using my to start collaborating on my project. So what they'll do, they'll just clone and then start adding their ideas on my project. Then when I receive these ideas, I can be able to merge them to my project, and you'll find that it has become very easy. So this person will just simply click on this link and then approve my collaboration. And then they clone and then they start adding their ideas to my project. So by doing so, you'll find that We are managing things with simplicity without too much hard work. So GitHub is literally very, very important and almost compulsory to every developer. In case your laptop is stolen, something like that, you can be able to retrieve your code. In case you make a mistake, you can be able to do what? To retrieve what you've done, what you've changed in a previous time. I will not go much deep. I wanted to take you a little bit deep, but because of time, I see time has gone as our time is done. I'll not go too deep. I'm going to share with you the links that can help you to get started with GitHub. Also on our YouTube channel, we have posted the basics of GitHub that are concentrating only on teaching you what's about GitHub. So I hope so. This GitHub, you can even log in it into your Visual Studio Code. So GitHub, you can use it even maybe when you're writing papers, when you're writing research work. You can use this one to collaborate. You can use it to store even your password, to store a different file. Even if you're in different field, you can use Git and GitHub to manage things that you may need to track their changes. So let's conclude our today's presentation, and then we see if you have questions. So we have looked at GitHub. It will help you to manage your changes. It is almost compulsory to every developer, and it helps you, like in case even if your data is lost, you can be able to retrieve the previous changes. Even if your computer is lost, you can be able to do what to get back everything that you had. So it is a very, very important software, and we have understood that Git is a core software, and GitHub is the interface. Just that software that works with Git is what we call with GitHub. Is the one that we call GitHub, whereby the Git is the software itself. It was invented in 2005, and GitHub, the software, was invented in 2008. So I encourage you to continue learning. So lastly, we have a program called 8 Learning. 8 Learning is a platform where we train the basics of programming, not even basics, even if you want to advance your programming. So we have 8 on 8 Learning. If you come here to search on internet, we teach programming and also other finance related courses. So if you want to learn, whatever level you are on, maybe you're totally beginner, you want to get started with learning, or maybe you were once a beginner and you quit these things of programming, you want to start learning, you can please reach us on internet by just simply searching 8 Learning. Or in case you have any question about this kind of thing that we are making, you can search on internet, 8 Learning. That is our website. You can look at different projects that we have done. And in case you want to sign up for a course, you can reach us through these phone numbers that are showing up here. You reach to us, and then we'll be able to answer all your questions. In case you want to start up learning online, we can also make arrangements for you, and then we start teaching, and we see how you can add on your knowledge and start making a contribution that are going to make impact on your community. Our courses are very, very cheap, and in case you want to learn much more, just contact us, and then we'll be able to give you the details of that. Also, we are on X, or what you call Twitter. Yeah, I recommend you, or I request you to go and follow us there in order to get updated of what we always post. So if you go to Twitter and search 8 Learning, so you'll find 8 Learning Institute of Technology Management. So go ahead and follow us there. Once you follow us, you'll always get updates about technology related things, and all the important things that you may need to know about technology. Lastly, if these things you think that they are not for you, but you think you know someone who might be interested, you can go ahead and let them know about 8 Learning. And maybe, as I told you, programming, even if you're just a senior 4 vacist, you can be able to learn programming. So if you think you have a young brother or sister or a friend who you think might be interested, please go ahead and tell them about 8 Learning, and we see if we can be able to give them some knowledge that can impact on their life at the end of the day, also impact on their communities. So that is 8 Learning here on Twitter. You can go ahead and follow us. So I hope everyone here will go ahead and do the needful as I have requested you. So every week we shall be doing these related webinars, which are not in deep into technology, but basically talking about technologies that can help you do your day-to-day things. Also maybe help you to, or guide you to be knowing what is going on with technology. Just like today, how we have discussed about GitHub. It didn't need you to have much technical knowledge to know the GitHub, but according to what we've listened today, I believe you now know what's GitHub. No one is going to lie you. Even if you create your own company, now you'll be able to know what's meant by GitHub. Lastly, those are our contact numbers. In case you want to reach us, you can just copy those numbers and contact us. So next week, I request everyone to be part of our presentation. Again, that we shall talk about different topic. So unless there is a question, I will go ahead and receive questions, if there is any. All right. So if there is no any, we shall share with you the link of the video in case you want to share with your friends. In case you want to listen, maybe you joined in late, you can go ahead and use that video to have a recap. Let's start up again next week on Thursday in time like this, where we shall look at different technology related topic. It will not need you to have a lot of much knowledge in technology. Just talking about technology, not talking the technology, but talking about technology. And we believe this will help you to stay updated and know when you make your own company of technology, people are not going to steal you. You'll be knowing what is happening in background. Just need to tune in and listen in, and also share with your friends and family. All right, thank you for appreciating Mr. Moses and everyone who has been part of this webinar up to this level. Goodbye and see you next week. Bye-bye.